Imagine being so wealthy that your family runs its own private army and still have enough left over for private jets, palaces, and a fleet of Rolls-Royces. Welcome to Malaysia's richest dynasties, and trust me, this list keeps getting more and more interesting with each family. 8. The Yeoh Family, builders of modern Kuala Lumpur. Owning properties is one thing, but we're kicking this journey off with a family that has practically shaped the skyline of Malaysia's capital. You guessed it. We are talking about the Yeoh family, which is led by Patriarch Tan Sri Francis Yeoh. This empire sits behind the YTL Corporation, a powerhouse that started in construction but quickly grew into a sprawling empire of utilities, hotels, and luxury real estate. Their story begins in 1955 when Yeoh Tiong Lei founded a small construction company. Back then, it was about building roads and bridges. Fast forward a few decades, and suddenly, YTL was managing power stations, running water utilities, and even buying up luxury hotels in Europe and Australia. Not bad for a family whose name wasn't even widely recognized outside of Malaysia 30 years ago. But what really sets the Yeohs apart is how they operate. Quiet but ambitious, with a focus on prestige assets. Francis Yeoh, the second-generation head, is often called one of the most influential businessmen in Asia, known for his vision of blending Eastern values with Western business practices. Under his leadership, YTL even took a gamble by acquiring Britain's Wessex Water, a move that shocked many but paid off massively. Today, the Yeoh family wealth is estimated at several $1 billion, and their empire touches nearly every corner of Malaysian daily life. But unlike flashier dynasties, they tend to keep things understated, even though their hotels are the very definition of luxury. And while the Yeohs built their fortune with concrete and cables, the next family didn't bother with blueprints at all. They were born into a kingdom. 7. The Johor Royal Family, the Sultanate Billionaires. If you thought monarchy was just about ceremonial parades and fancy crowns, think again. The Johor Royal Family, one of Malaysia's most powerful dynasties, has turned centuries-old rule into a modern financial empire. And yes, they have their own private army as well. And if you think that's interesting, just wait for a while until we reveal the most insane fact about this family. At the center of it all is Sultan Ibrahim Iskandar, Malaysia's current king, whose personal fortune has long made headlines. We're talking sprawling palaces, massive land holdings, stakes in palm oil, telecoms, and even infrastructure. It's an empire that stretches far beyond ceremonial crowns and thrones. But what really sets Johor's royals apart is their taste for luxury. Sultan Ibrahim in particular is famous for his jaw-dropping car collection. And when we say collection, we're not talking about a couple of Lamborghinis in the garage. We're talking about over 300 luxury and vintage cars, ranging from custom Rolls-Royces to rare classics that collectors would kill for. But here's where it gets really interesting, and nothing we have shared so far compares to this. Tucked inside this garage is a 1936 Mercedes-Benz 540,000, gifted to the Sultan's great-grandfather by none other than Adolf Hitler himself. Yes, that Hitler. In a resurfaced interview, Sultan Ibrahim casually mentioned the detail, saying the car was inherited through the family line. It's one of those surreal, did I just hear that right? Facts that shows just how unusual royal fortunes can be. Part luxury, part history, and occasionally part controversy. Beyond the cars, the family also maintains private jets, yachts, and palaces spread across Johor and beyond. But despite the outward flash, Sultan Ibrahim has positioned himself as a pragmatic monarch, investing in industries like telecoms and energy, and even promoting development projects that stretch Johor's growth beyond Malaysia and tie it into Singapore's economy. So while the Yeoh family had to build their empire brick by brick, the Johor royals remind us of what happens when centuries of power collide with modern capitalism. And yet, as grand as this dynasty is, the next family shows that you don't need crowns to dominate entire industries. 6. The Lee family, Malaysia's sugar kings. From castles to cane sugar, the Lee family proves that sometimes the sweetest fortunes are also the stickiest. Known as Malaysia's sugar kings, the Lees built one of Southeast Asia's largest agribusiness empires, starting with a commodity that everyone craves but no one really thinks about: sugar. The dynasty was founded by Robert Kuok's relatives through the Kuok Group, with Tan Sri Lee Shin Cheng later branching off to create IOI Group, now one of the world's leading palm oil producers. The family's sugar refineries once controlled such a huge portion of Malaysia's supply that Kuok himself was nicknamed the Sugar King of Asia. That kind of dominance doesn't just put money in the bank, it puts entire governments on speed dial. But the real pivot came when they moved from sugar to palm oil, turning IOI into a multinational juggernaut. Today, the Lee family fortune stretches into billions, with diversified interests in property, plantations, and manufacturing. And while sugar and palm oil built their wealth, it also brought controversy over sustainability and environmental issues. Yet, through all the criticism, the Lee family managed to expand, diversify, and maintain their dominance, proving that fortune favors those willing to adapt. And just when you think monopolizing sugar is as powerful as it gets, our next family shows what happens when you own entire casinos, theme parks, and hotels. 5. The Lim family, masters of Genting Empire. If you've ever taken a holiday to Genting Highlands, that mountain resort filled with casinos, theme parks, and hotels, you've basically stepped into the kingdom of the Lim family. Founded by Tan Sri Lim Gotong, the Genting Group started with a crazy idea: build a casino resort on top of a mountain. People thought he was mad. Today, they call him a genius. The story goes back to the 1960s when Lim Gotong, a Chinese immigrant with little money, spotted the potential of a cool, misty mountain retreat. Against all odds and plenty of skepticism, he built what would become Malaysia's most famous leisure empire. Casinos, luxury hotels, shopping complexes, and theme parks followed, transforming Genting into what is now called the Las Vegas of Asia. What makes the Lim family empire fascinating is how diversified it has become. Beyond Genting Highlands, they own casinos in Singapore, New York, and even London. They've got oil and gas interests, plantations, and real estate investments spread across continents. At its peak, the Genting Group was raking in billions every year, cementing the Lim family's place among Malaysia's wealthiest dynasties. But if you think Lims created a holiday destination like many others, well, they actually created a monopoly on entertainment itself. In Malaysia, Genting holds the country's only legal casino license. That means every roulette spin, every slot machine pull, every baccarat bet, all flow into the Lim fortune. So from mountain fog to global dominance, the Lims showed how vision and a willingness to bet big can turn one man's gamble into a family dynasty. And if you think the ride so far has been wild, just wait, because the next 4 families on our list actually redefine what it's like owning legacies. 4. The Ananda Krishnan family, quiet titans of telco and media. If you drew a map of Malaysia's daily habits, the Krishnan family essentially owns the highways. Calls routed through Maxis, TV remotes pointed at Astro, and a lattice of cash-spinning legacy assets sitting quietly inside Usaha Tegas. It's a portfolio designed to hum rather than roar, dependable, national scale, and ruthlessly cash-generative. The arc began with Tanjong plc and widened into energy, media, telco, and private investments, all stitched together by a holding company mindset that prizes moats over buzz. The brands are household, the ownership is anything but loud. Even today, you'll rarely see a splashy interview. You will, however, see Maxis anchoring post-paid leadership and enterprise connectivity, and Astro reinventing itself from satellite dominance into a hybrid of linear, streaming, and broadband partnerships. It's the same playbook: defend the base, evolve the bundle, protect the churn gates. Since Ananda's passing in November 2024, stewardship has shifted to long-trusted lieutenants and family vehicles, a succession that feels more like a baton pass than a reset. The strategic puzzles ahead are meaty. 5G rollouts that demand capital discipline, and cord-cutting that forces Astro to double down on content rights, super aggregator UX, and sports economics. But this family's history suggests calm hands in volatile markets. they've always preferred compounding over headlines. Picture the visual: cell towers at dusk, homes lit by astroboxes, boardrooms where strategy decks trade noise for numbers. That's the Krishnan signature: operational gravity with a low public profile. And if scale and silence can mint fortunes, wait until you see how the next family turned boring banking into a dividend machine that outlived every hype cycle. 3. The Tay family, public bank's dividend dynasty. When Tan Sri Tay Hong Piao founded Public Bank in 1966, the idea wasn't glamour, it was discipline. Keep costs low, price risk correctly, serve retail and SMEs obsessively, and let the math do the bragging. Decades later, that simple philosophy turned into a legend: industry-leading cost to income, pristine asset quality, and the kind of dividends that made long-term shareholders feel like insiders at a very polite mint. Public Bank's footprint reads modest: Malaysia at the core, strong spokes in Cambodia and Vietnam, but the engine is a compounding machine. The bank's culture is famously meticulous. Branch managers who know their communities, credit officers who still care about collateral detail, and systems that reward prudence over adrenaline. Even after the founder's passing in 2022, the family remains pivotal beneficiaries of a fortress balance sheet built brick by brick. This is where boring wins. While fintechs sprint from buzzword to buzzword, Public Bank quietly eats market share in deposits, mortgages, and SME lending, clipping coupons on spreads and fees. Over 30 years, that adds up to a graph that looks suspiciously like a ski jump in reverse. This story is not just nostalgia, but something relatable. In a world flirting with credit mistakes, conservative underwriting is an edge. And in a rate environment that refuses to behave, low funding costs are a superpower. Next up, we have a family web that stitches banking, insurance, and property into one of Malaysia's most durable private empires. And a succession choreography everyone's watching. 2. The Quek family, Hong Leong's banking to property web. The Quek playbook reads like a case study in capital discipline. Start with Hong Leong Bank and Hong Leong Financial Group as the yield core, layer on insurance and manufacturing for cash flow breadth, then swing patient, well-timed bets in property where value is created before the first crane moves. Do it for decades. Avoid noise. Let the compounding speak. Tan Sri Quek Leng Chan sits at the center of this lattice, with familial ties stretching across the causeway to Singapore's Quek clan, a cross-border kinship that quietly amplifies deal flow and timing. Inside Malaysia, the group's property pipeline is classic Hong Leong: land bank early, plan meticulously, phase sensibly, and sell into demand rather than hope for it. In banking, the discipline is similar: defend CASA, prize risk pricing, and keep digital spend aimed at cost and cross-sell rather than platform vanity. The beauty of Hong Leong's structure is its optionality. When cycles turn, the group has dry powder. When they overheat, it has cash-generative anchors. And hovering over everything is the question all great dynasties face: succession. Who steers which silo? How do incentives align across listed and private pockets? And how do you maintain the house style when the founder eventually steps back further? Imagine a bank facade dissolving into a forest of condo cranes, then a receipt printing free cash flow in quiet type. That's the Quek rhythm: conservative posture yet aggressive timing. And if the number 2 on our list is an orchestra of banks and buildings, the number 1 is the crown jewel: a family that turned sugar and shipping lanes into a pan-Asian empire spanning hotels, logistics, and China's consumer boom. 1. The Kuok family, the Sugar King's pan-Asian empire. Every country has a benchmark fortune. In Malaysia, it's the Kuoks. Beginning with sugar and trading houses in the 1950s, Robert Kuok built a model that looks obvious only in hindsight. Scale the essentials, control logistics, then climb the value chain, first to palm oil, then to hotels, property, and consumer brands across Hong Kong and China. The portfolio's emblems are iconic. Shangri-La turned Asian hospitality into a global standard, placing chandeliers where sacks of sugar once stood. Kerry Group knitted together Kerry properties, land in the right districts at the right time, and Kerry logistics, ports, warehouses, last-mile certainty. The family's strategic stake and kinship tie to Wilmar plugged Kuok into the beating heart of edible oils and agribusiness, from plantations to packaged goods, a vertical that turns volatility into margin by owning the route from field to shelf. What sets the Kuoks apart isn't just asset quality, it's governance and secrecy. The family keeps counsel close, moves deliberately, and resists the urge to narrate itself. Expansion into China was timed with rare precision, placing flags in Shanghai and Beijing before the world priced those skylines to perfection. Even today, with a headline wealth of approximately 11 to 12 billion US dollars, the influence radiates well beyond any single number, across boards, joint ventures, and supply chains that touch your breakfast, your hotel key card, and the ship that brought both to port. Picture the closing montage, antique sugar sacks dissolving into Shangri-La lobbies, a fly-through of Wilmar turning fruit bunches into consumer staples, cranes loading a Kerry container beneath neon harbors. It's Malaysia's crown jewel, a dynasty that built at home, scaled in Hong Kong and China, and compounded quietly for generations. And this concludes our journey through the 8 richest Malaysian families. Which one of these empires fascinated you the most? Let us know in the comments, and for more such peeks into the lives of the rich, take a look at our channel.